Causes need champions, and for almost 20 years, the cause of increasing educational opportunities in higher education has had a champion in Congress, and that person is Representative Rubén Hinojosa. I had the opportunity to sit down with Congressman Hinojosa and to reflect on his life, his early years in Texas, his family, what compelled him to get involved in politics and choose education, what brought him to Washington, D.C., what he's accomplished in the time that he's been here, and what he's thinking about now that he prepares to go home.
I had 3 children after I got married, and we were attending schools that, in my opinion, were below par, and that very little of the budget would go to those schools that our children were going to. And I just felt that instead of complaining, that I ought to do something about it and run for the school board, and I won. So after serving 1 term on the local school board, I was tapped by some community leaders who said that I should run for the Texas State Board of Education and go to Austin once a month. And what an eye-opener to go from a little budget of about $15 million in Mercedes, Texas, to Austin for the whole state of Texas to have a budget that was several $billion. But I learned quickly. I had a fast learning curve, and I was able to persuade the leadership to put me on the finance committee, to put me on special populations so that I could learn more about migrant and seasonal farm workers, that I could learn more about the gifted and talented programs and bilingual education. So that opened my eyes. I served 10 years, and I became one of the dominant leaders of the State Board of Education from 1974 to 1984. I decided that I would make my mark by creating something that I saw as a member of the State Board of Education in Houston, Texas, known as the Magnet High School System. And I went and visited them. I took a group of 13 superintendents so that they could see what I had seen at a state board meeting there. And I told them, this is what we need in South Texas. And it took us 2.5 years to get it done. I led the group, and sure enough, we got the legislation passed, and we created a taxing district. And I'm proud to say that instead of having 1 magnet school, we have 6, and that they are all listed in the top 100 best high schools in the whole country. Before I knew it, I got a visit from then Othel Brand, mayor of McAllen, with a delegation that came to my office at our family business and said, we want you to lead us in creating a community college, because we've tried 3 times in the election to create such a community college requires a taxing district, and it's always voted down. The best we've been able to get is 45%, 46, 47%. And the fact that you created the magnet schools means that you can bring Republicans and Democrats and independents and be able to pass it. And I said, well, I don't know that I can do this, but let me think about it. And I gave him an answer within a week. And believe it or not, in 14 months, Ann Richards was signing the bill that created South Texas Community College. They gave us $2 million from the legislature, and we opened the doors with 876 students. That was it. Tiny little campus. Today, our budget is over $200 million. Our enrollment is about 34,000, and it's one of the largest of the 50 community colleges in the state of Texas.
In 1997, I served as executive director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans in the Clinton administration, and Deborah Santiago, Excelencia in Education's co-founder, was our deputy. We had the opportunity to get to know Congressman Hinojosa as a freshman. Coming to Washington, D.C., committed to education and focused on what he could do to garner support for students and the institutions where they enroll. That effort is what led to the foundation of Title V in the Higher Education Act and a funding stream which today supports over 430 Hispanic-serving institutions across the country.
I remember getting sworn in January of 1997, and during that first 12 months, I saw that there was an organization known as HSIs, the acronym for Hispanic Serving Institutions, and that there were about 34 that were sharing $10 million a year to use to be able to help recruit Latinos and Latinas to come to a community college or to a university. And I could see that there was a big disparity in the minority serving institutions, being African American, Hispanic, Asian American, and tribally controlled colleges and universities. The last one getting almost nothing in dollars in the budget. And the one that was doing the best was the historically black colleges. They were getting slightly over $100 million, and the HSIs, Hispanic Serving Institutions, $10 million. I thought it was a typographical mistake, and my chief of staff said, no, it's no mistake. I said, well, we need to raise it. We need to bring it up to 20, maybe $30 million so that we can start to make a difference. Well, there was a lot of pushback. Right. And I said, well, the only way we can do it is to separate from the 600 other colleges and universities that have all been grouped together. The only ones that were separate were the HBCUs, because they were smart enough to set aside that title with different funding and so forth. So I introduced Title V under the title Hispanic Serving Institutions, HSIs. I went to the Vice President, Al Gore, and invited him to come to our meeting at the CHC. And that's the only time that I can remember that I was disrespectful. I made a fist and I hit it on the table right in front of him before all the members of the CHC and said, we're tired of waiting. It's time that we raise that 10 million to 28 million, and it got done. And that was just the beginning. We went through some tremendous fights that some of them I'll tell you about them here on my wall as to how that 10 million reached $221 million per year. Right. And how we were able to put together a coalition again, a tri-caucus coalition made up of Hispanic serving institutions, HBCUs, and Asian American tribally controlled colleges and universities with 85 votes, and we got it passed. Dr. Miguel Nevares was the president of UT and Network. Together, his staff and mine created this newborn baby known as HESTEC 15 years ago. And so this October of 2016, we will celebrate our 15th anniversary, and we have already graduated over 2,500 in engineering. Right. And I don't know the exact numbers for mathematicians and physicists, but the numbers are staggering. For a region that was very, very poor, dependent on agriculture. And today, it has been transformed. There's a lot of good things that are happening in the area where I was born and raised with my family. All I can say is gives me a lot of reason to swell up with pride of the improvements that have occurred in the Rio Grande Valley and in all of Texas. Look at the unemployment of our state of Texas. It's 4.5%, and continues to grow. I couldn't have done it without a wonderful staff and bringing coalitions that had a lot of diversity. With that, there's a lot of strength.
We've had the opportunity to work with Congressman Hinojosa on many fronts, including when we launched Examples of Excelencia, our signature initiative, and the country's only national initiative to identify and promote evidence-based practices that are accelerating Latino student success at the associate, baccalaureate, graduate, and community-based level. We were honored to be with him when we launched Hispanic Serving Institutions Center for Policy and Practice, HSI-CP Squared.
Excelencia is now in so many states and will continue to grow because the foundation that you built is one that helps communicate the things that work, that make for a better quality of life. And so that's why I'm so happy to be able to support your program and your staff, your partners, because together you all are doing a wonderful job.